All right, guys. So, there was a interesting interview on The Root, right? Talking about this joke of a publication again, right? In the content they put out. But there was an interesting interview about Kamala Harris and whether or not she's been set up to win or fail. And Reverend Al Sharpton weighed in on this, probably the #1 race baiter in America. And unsurprisingly, guys, he makes this conversation not about Kamala Harris and her qualifications, like is she actually qualified to be vice president. He makes it more about the fact that, oh, she's black, and therefore because she's black, she should have more responsibilities and such and such and such just because she's black. And this really does outline the flawed thinking that a lot of us have in society, right? That people should be put into positions of power simply because of their race or their gender or their sex or their sexuality, when that's not how you run anything, especially running a country. Just in my humble opinion. I know that's controversial nowadays. But Reverend Al Sharpton said some things I want to respond to, and then we're going to go from there. All right. So The Root says, you mentioned that Vice President Kamala Harris would speak at NAN's 30th anniversary this year. There has been some dissatisfaction with her assigned duties so far. In a recent interview, author and CNN political analyst Bakari Sellers called her portfolio trash. What are your thoughts on that? Now, I'm assuming they're talking about her main assignment being immigration, in which Kamala has literally done nothing, right? She's done nothing. Matter of fact, she has essentially recused herself from being border czar, right? Any type of border questions, they're going to Alejandro Mayorkas, even though Kamala's supposed to be in charge of it. At this point, I don't know what Kamala is in charge of, because at first we all kind of thought, oh, Kamala's kind of running things, but it seems to me that Kamala is so incompetent, right, that she's not doing anything at all. That's kind of what it seems like. And you guys know, right, I'm kind of playing up into the narrative that there's some issues between Joe and Kamala in the White House, which we're going to get into a little bit later here. But Al Sharpton says, quote, I want to see her be used more effectively. And I think her being in charge of voting was important, but I question her other assignments. You might remember when Joe Biden said he was going to appoint a woman to run with him and appoint a black woman to the Supreme Court. I challenged him and said, quote, why don't you have a black woman run like Stacey Abrams or Kamala? And I had him on my MSNBC show and confronting him. So in many ways, we were the ones who stood up for her to be in that position, and we want her to have a strong position, not marginal positions. I think that he did the right thing giving her voting, but I think he should continue to give her more positions of power. Okay, so I don't understand what Al Sharpton is talking about here, right? Because this man is the same dude that showed up to the border when the Haitians came, but he said nothing about Kamala. He said nothing about Kamala, who's in charge of the border crisis. So I really don't understand. And I find it interesting how he's leaving out the whole border thing. She's in charge of the border. She has power over that. Now, Biden gave her an issue that she literally can't win, okay, to be fair, but he's given her power. And when he has given her power, she's shown that she's just not that effective, right? She's failed on the border. She's failed on the voting thing, which, again, I think is really a non-issue. I think that's a BS issue. But I'm just saying, everything that she's been assigned, she's failed on. I mean, she can't even make a video about space, right, which is one of her assignments as well. Space Force, I believe. She's like the head of the National Space Council. She can't even make a video without using child actors, right? She can't even make a video about space without using child actors. So literally every assignment that she's got, she's failed on. But yet this dude right here is like, oh no, she needs more power because we just have to have a black woman, right? We have to have a black woman in power simply because she's a woman and she's black. No mentions of her qualifications. What qualifies Kamala to be vice president? I would love to hear Al Sharpton articulate that. Outside of her race and her sex, what qualifies her to be vice president? What qualifies her to get the power that you're trying to give her? I don't understand. They say, what can Nan do to push for the vice president to have more significant responsibilities? Nan will continue to fight for her to be in a position of power because we want to see her thrive, and I will communicate that to the president. It would be unwise for me to have her at my event and use that as a platform to raise the issue, so instead I will speak directly to the president. Do you have a timeline for when you will be communicating with the president? We probably will be meeting with him within the next 30 days. We have reached out to him and said we want to meet. I have had 2 meetings with him, and we intend to meet with him before mid-November. He is going to this climate thing, and we want to meet with him right after that. So he's going to go talk to Joe Biden, not about the issues that are plaguing this country, but about how Kamala should have more power. Again, these are the so-called leaders, right? These are the so-called civil rights leaders. You mentioned earlier that you would like to see her do more. What issues would you like to see her take on that she isn't involved in right now? I would like the president to put her in charge of the voting package and criminal justice. Well, she is involved in the voting package. And when it comes to criminal justice thing, I'm not sure if he's talking about police reform or what, but that's something that's currently being negotiated with, or was, with Tim Scott. And the Democrats don't want to come to a reasonable agreement, which is Tim Scott's agreement in regards to police reform. So again, I don't understand, what are you actually asking for? Also, he needs to put Kamala out in front of the George Floyd bill that he promised to get through. She was a prosecutor and a state attorney general, so she knows the criminal justice system and understands both sides. She is also a black woman in the time of Breonna Taylor and other black women who have suffered racism. So I think we should have those assignments and be able to get certain things to Congress. All right, I don't know if this dude is actually educated at all about what's going on with that. Again, Democrats and Republicans have been negotiating on that. Republicans are willing to actually do something about that. However, Democrats just don't want to, because Democrats want to federalize police, essentially. So they don't want to come to a reasonable conclusion. But I will say, I mean, since Kamala has experience locking up black men, right, left and right, maybe she is somewhat qualified to take on that issue. So I'll give him that. But while he's saying this, there's a rumor in the right-wing rumor mill, and I'm just saying this is a rumor, which means I don't know if it's actually true or not, okay? So this is alleged. These are rumors, right? But I'm going to talk about it because it's just fun to think about, right, if it is true. But Mr. Jack Posobiec basically came out and said that he's been hearing word on the D.C. streets that Jill Biden has been asking about how to possibly remove Kamala Harris from the vice president position. Take a look.
Kamala Harris and her team are referring to him as the Titanic behind his back. I also got word that Jill Biden over the weekend was actually asking around if there's any way to remove a sitting vice president from the United States. That's how bad it is in the White House.
Okay, so again, this is just a rumor. And if I was a betting man, I would probably say it's probably not true. But I don't know. Again, I'm just simply saying that this is what, again, word on the street is, right? And again, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some truth to it. And the reason why is because we know that Jill Biden, in reference to Kamala's comments about Biden at the debate, basically calling him a racist and a segregationist and questioning some other things that he's done, basically told Kamala to go F herself, right? That's what she said to Kamala. And do you think that Jill is going to be very, very forgiving towards Kamala for the things that she said about her husband? I don't necessarily think so. I mean, guys, you remember Biden at the CNN town hall when he was discussing the border, right? Asked that he go down there. He said nothing about his appointed border czar, who he appointed to be that, Kamala Harris. He said nothing about her going down there and the work that she was doing. I don't believe he said anything about it. But he said, well, Jill visited the border. Right? My wife visited the border, as if she is vice president, right? As if she's in charge. So again, when it comes to, the whole Kamala versus Joe in the White House, I do believe that there is a whole lot of tension and animosity in that White House, right? And I definitely think they're not getting along. That's why Kamala is not standing beside Joe as much as she was before. And then she comes out when Joe was talking about that infrastructure package that they agree with Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, and Bernie Sanders, right? So she'll roll herself out there for that. But literally ever since Afghanistan, Kamala's just been kind of missing in action, right? She's just distanced herself from Biden in multiple ways, and it is very apparent. And the mainstream media is just starting to pick up on it, right? But this is something I've been talking about for a long, long, long time. So again, I don't know if this is true, But if it was, I would find it to be funny. And I also wouldn't be surprised considering the things that we know and the rumors that are swirling around what's going on in the White House. So while Al Sharpton is talking about how Biden needs to get Kamala more power, maybe the Biden administration, the Bidens are actually thinking about trying to give her less power. And maybe Kamala doesn't want any more power because the closer that she is to Biden, or appears to be to Biden, the worse that she looks. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.